Hello, this is the first video in a series showcasing how to install my University Research Scholars final project, which was on dynamic graph visualization. So in this video, I'm just going to cover how to install the programming language itself, which is Julia, how to download the actual source code from GitHub, and how to make sure that everything you downloaded is installed properly. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is install the Julia language. So we're going to head to julialang.org, and we're going to click on this big green button to download. So if we scroll down, you can actually see all the operating systems that are currently being supported. My code package was written in Julia 1.9. So basically anything Julia 1.9 and above should be fine. I don't guarantee any compatibility with the previous versions. But yeah, so just make sure that your operating system is supported here. And once you do, you can head down here and download the appropriate file. So for Windows, I recommend downloading the installer. For Macs, download DMGs, and Linux, I'm not really sure what's going on. So I have an Apple Silicon Mac, so I'm going to download this one. So I'm going to wait for it to download, and we'll be back in a bit. Okay, so now Julia has been downloaded, so we can just double click that, and it's going to open this up. If you're on Windows, obviously it's going to be like a whole installer process, but in macOS, you can just drag and drop it to the applications folder. And once you hear that sound, that means it's installed, so you can just close this up. So now what we're going to do is open up Finder, or in Windows case, this File Explorer, and try to run Julia from here. So you can't really see it, but it's gonna ask you, Julia 1.10 is an app downloaded from the internet. Do you want to open it? And yes, we do. And then it's gonna open up this terminal window. So it might look a little scary, but for now, this just means that Julia's good to go. We can just close this up. Yes. And we can proceed to install Git. If you're watching this video, you probably already have Git, but if you don't, we can head to the official Git website, which is git-sem.com. And there should be like a download button for your particular operating system here, assuming it's supported. And once you're gonna, in macOS, you can actually just open up a terminal window and type git, and it's gonna ask you it's gonna like allow you to install it by like installing some developer tools, and you might just want to do that. Otherwise, you have to like install brew or MacPorts. On Windows, it's usually just an installer, so as long as you run the installer, you'll be okay. Linux, it should be, I believe it's built into Linux, so I don't think you have to download anything from there. Okay, so now that you have Git and Julia downloaded, we can actually download the actual project. So for that, you're gonna have to go to my repository, which I'm gonna link in the description for sure. But you can just go to text.ag/ursdgv, and it'll actually just take you to the GitHub page. From here, it's gonna look a lot scary. You're gonna see some cool visualizations that you can do with my project. Some like the actual documentation, so you can read this instead of watching the videos if you wanted to. But all we really care about is downloading it. So we're gonna click on code. So the code button, go to HTTPS. We're gonna copy this, and then on your terminal. So in terminal, you're gonna want to go to the folder that you want to go to. So I'm currently in the root directory, so I'm gonna want to go to my desktop. So now that I'm in my desktop, I'm gonna just download the actual repository because I want it to be placed here. So I'm gonna do git clone and then paste it. And then I should just be able to click enter, and it's gonna download all the files. So it actually downloaded them in my second monitor, but yeah, it's right here. If you open it, you can see all the files that were in here are gonna be downloaded to your computer. So now you should be good to go. Okay, so before we continue, we're gonna add Julia to our path. So I'm currently doing macOS, so it doesn't automatically do it when it installs Julia. In Windows, the installer itself should have like a checkbox that you can select to add Julia to your path, and I would highly recommend it. That way you can just like type Julia in your terminal, and it'll actually open up Julia. So the way you're gonna do it in macOS is a little weird, but you're gonna paste this command, and this is basically gonna add Julia to your path, essentially. So by adding this, we're gonna be able to, it's gonna add Julia. And now if we type Julia, you can see you can actually run Julia from anywhere. And like no matter what directory you're in, so let's say I go to my desktop, I could do Julia here as well. So it doesn't really matter. So I'd highly recommend doing this. You don't have to. You can technically just open Julia from the applications folder or from your applications. But yeah. So once you have this, you're good to go to the next part. All right. So now that we've downloaded the actual repository to our desktop and to your computer, we're actually ready to run it. But before we do that, we're gonna have to install some packages. So if you go to the project website, which if you go to text.ix/rsdgb, and you scroll down, actually Control F, you may see that it has some required dependencies. So these are just Julia libraries that you're gonna have to install in order to be able to run the project. So the way you install libraries on Julia is actually pretty easy. So we're gonna open up Julia, and now we're gonna install each and every one of these. So the way we do it is by pressing the right bracket key on your keyboard, and it's gonna go to your package manager in Julia. So now what you do is literally just add JLD2, which is the first one. It's gonna download all the necessary stuff. This might take a while since some packages are noticeably bigger than others. But once you've installed all of them, you should be okay. So right now we're gonna install that, and we're gonna move on to linear algebra. So add linear algebra. So okay, that one's already done. So now we're gonna add crylog. Crylog kit. So adding all these. So add. There's a warning there, but I think it should be okay. Oh. We're gonna add sparse arrays. Add plots. This is the biggest one by far, so this one might take the longest. Give it some time and it should be okay. All right, so now plots is installed. We can add mat. So add mat capital everything. So I believe the packages are case sensitive, so you just want to be careful with that once you're installing them. Mat shouldn't take too long. It's almost done actually. So okay, now the last one is add data structures. And some of these packages are actually pretty useful, particularly data structures and plots. So yeah, so now that you have all these, you can exit the Julia terminal. I'm just going to clear everything. And now, finally ready to actually run the project. Okay, so now we're finally ready to run the actual program. So now that we have all of our dependencies installed as well as Julia, and we can go into the projects repository, which is dynamic graph biz. So we do an ls. You're going to see all the files that are inside of this folder right here. So all the .jl files are Julia files, and they contain code. And the way we run a Julia file is just by typing Julia and then the file name. So we could technically run all of them, but only user input.jl is actually going to do anything. So this is the one that we're going to be calling whenever we want to make graphs and stuff. So we're going to do Julia user input.jl. So it's going to execute this file. So this might take a while, particularly the first time that you open up Julia, because it has to do some stuff. But if you give it a little bit, you're gonna be greeted with a prompt, as you can see here. And to make sure that everything's working properly, we're gonna try to load a graph. So we're gonna do the load command, and we're gonna do, in the current directory, there's a folder called resources, and here it's gonna have a bunch of graph files, a bunch of helper files basically that I used throughout the development of this project to test certain features. And the one we're going to try out is test.back. So now if we run it, it should have opened a new window, and it opened it up on my other one. But if I drag it over here, and yeah, this is basically a graph. So now if this displays, that means everything should be okay. All your packages should be fine. So yeah, so now you're ready to learn more about the commands and the structure and other aspects of the code of in my project. So I'll see you in the next videos.